My name is Alice Monroe, and I'm 32 years old. If you saw me today, sitting by a quiet window with a cup of black coffee and a 1,000-yard stare, you'd never guess I once belonged to a world of chandeliers, champagne, and perfect smiles. But that world vanished the day I chose love over money. I met Daniel when I was 28. He was not rich, not connected, and certainly not what my parents had envisioned for me. He was warm, smart, and had a quiet dignity that drew me in. My parents, both entrenched in their wealthy social circles, were outraged when I confessed my intent to marry him. "A girl like you deserves someone with status," my mother said, eyes flashing with disbelief. My father didn't even argue. He simply handed me my belongings and told me, "You're on your own." Suddenly, the life I had known, the sprawling mansion, the luxury vacations, the effortless social standing, disappeared. I moved into a small apartment with Daniel, where the floors were uneven, and the heating worked only sporadically. Every penny was accounted for. Every meal was a compromise. But Daniel never complained, and somehow, that made me feel wealthier than all the gold my parents had ever surrounded me with. Despite the hardship, our bond grew. We laughed more freely, loved more deeply, and discovered a life built on mutual respect and understanding. Yet the sting of my family's rejection never faded. A year later, my younger sister Emma announced her engagement. My parents were ecstatic, carefully orchestrating a wedding with all the pomp and grandeur they thought they had denied me. And there it was, Daniel and I, invited under the guise of civility, facing the same people who had dismissed our love and belittled us for our supposed misjudgment. Emma's fiancé was presented as a successful man, the kind that would satisfy my parents' obsession with status. The night of the engagement party, I noticed a man observing from the corner. Handsome, confident, and entirely familiar in a way that made my pulse quicken. It was Daniel, though not as I knew him. He had assumed a disguise, a persona that exuded wealth and influence, and now he was seamlessly mingling with my family as someone they would have respected all along. The shock was electric. My parents, who had openly scorned him for his humble origins, were completely oblivious to his transformation. They bowed, smiled, and congratulated him as if they were welcoming a future son-in-law. The irony was delicious and painful. The revelation unfolded slowly, teasing them with suspense. Daniel's subtle confidence, the quiet hints of his true identity, the casual brilliance in conversation. They all pointed to a truth my parents had refused to acknowledge. The man they had dismissed as poor, the one they mocked and disrespected, was no ordinary man. He had worked in silence, building a life and fortune from scratch, proving that character mattered far more than wealth. Emma, blissfully unaware of the layers of deceit and revelation, was caught in her own moment of enchantment and surprise when the real truth became unavoidable. Daniel revealed his identity at the engagement reception with a poise and calm that left everyone speechless. My parents' faces went pale. Their carefully maintained composure crumbled in seconds. "You dismissed him, humiliated him, and laughed at our love," I whispered to my mother as the room held its breath. "And now?" Her lips trembled, guilt flashing in her eyes, but there were no words strong enough to bridge the chasm they had created. My father simply turned away, too stunned to respond, his pride shattered by the reality he had so violently denied. Daniel didn't gloat, didn't savor the moment of revelation in a cruel way. Instead, he allowed the truth to speak for itself. He showed them that the man they had belittled, the one they had dismissed for his lack of wealth, was a man of integrity, intellect, and vision. Every slight they had cast upon him came back to them, reflected in his calm authority and undeniable success. The confrontation that followed between me and my parents was long and exhausting. They begged for forgiveness, for understanding, for a second chance to make amends. but I had learned the harsh truth about unconditional love and misplaced loyalty. Their regret, no matter how genuine, could not undo the years of dismissal, scorn, and judgment. I looked at them, my voice steady, my heart resolved. "No," I said simply. "This isn't about revenge. This is about reclaiming my life. You've had your chance. It's over." And with that, I turned away, leaving the life I had known and the people who had rejected me behind. Daniel and I stepped into our new lives, unshackled by expectations, untethered from judgment, and free to define happiness on our own terms. Months later, my parents attempted tentative contact, but the connection was different. They were humbled, cautious, and aware that their choices had consequences. Emma, finally aware of the truth about Daniel, had a new respect for her sister, and slowly, she began to question the values she had been raised with. For Daniel and me, the journey was not about vengeance but justice. The justice of living authentically, of proving through action rather than words that love, perseverance, and character outweigh superficial judgments. We had risen from the fall, stronger, wiser, and forever changed by the lessons of love, betrayal, and triumph. The story of Alice Monroe is not just one of hardship or heartbreak. It is a story of resilience, of patience, and of the undeniable truth that those who are underestimated often have the power to rise higher than anyone could imagine. The chandeliers and champagne may be gone, but what remains is real, an unshakable life built on love, truth, and the courage to walk away from what does not serve your soul.
The end. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Comment below which story you want to hear next. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.